So what we've got here is the newly redesigned UDL lesson planner as an exemplar. So we've got a science lesson here, a fifth grade science lesson that a teacher created and filled out this planner for. So I'm going to walk you through the first parts of it, which aren't any different from last year. If you were in the district last year, this stuff will be very familiar. And then I'll show you what we've added and kind of explain why we've made changes. As I scroll down through the planner here, you'll see that step one is still finding a standard that you're supposed to teach and inputting that standard right here in this first box. I mean, that's where we started last year, and we are continuing with that this year. Then you're looking closely at the language of the standard. You're finding your verbs and your nouns, and you're determining what are the different skills that you want students to have or that they're required to have to achieve that standard, and what are the different concepts that they need to know to achieve that standard. And so again, that hasn't changed, that language breakdown. Underneath, this is where we create our goal statements, the statements that we want students to be able to achieve or demonstrate understanding of to achieve the overall standard. And in the next box, we are listing either one or a couple of the key goal statements there. We're color coding it to show whether it's a skills goal or a concept goal. So we've got those color coded in here for you as well. As we go further down, now we've got the point where we create our assessments. And this may not mean, writing your test or actually creating a project. It might just mean looking at your goal statements and defining what would be evidence of success for each of those goal statements. Here we've got two of the goal statements kind of leveled as a rubric so that we can show students what they need to do to be able to achieve the secure rating and what they need to avoid to fall in the lower categories. It's clearly defining what will be success as far as that standard goes or that goal statement goes. As we go on to the last part of it, now here's what's a little bit different. You'll see the UDL guidelines up here on top. The checkpoints that deal with the accessibility layer right here, the ones that you were studying earlier today. As you are creating your lesson and you're trying to create a flexible learning environment, the idea here is to record the different checkpoints in the accessibility layer that you are focusing on and kind of explaining how this lesson or unit will address those checkpoints. Here she's addressing 7.1 and 7.2, 7.1 being about individual choice and autonomy in this unit, and 7.2 being about optimizing relevance, value, and authenticity. For perception, she's looking at 1.1 here, which is offering ways for students to customize information so that they can comprehend it and see it. Over here for physical action, she's got 4.1, which is about varying the methods for students to respond and navigate in their pursuit of a learning goal. If you go on just a little bit further, you'll see we have reflection questions here. How will my environment provide access for students? It might be just a deeper explanation of what you're doing with the checkpoints here. Again, in the center, how will my environment provide access for students? Again, trying to explain how what you've done in your learning environment is going to allow students to have more access to the learning. And then the same question over here in the third column. Now that's just for access, which is our focus for today. But if you wanted to go further into the build layer, we've got that here as well, all the checkpoints, and then questions that address the build layer and those particular checkpoints. And if you want to go even further, we've got the internalized checkpoints right here. And then we've got the questions that go with those checkpoints about your environment, what the changes that you've made to ensure that students are working in a flexible learning environment. In the bottom here, we've got those basic questions you just want to keep in mind as you're planning, because again, our goal is to create students that are purposeful and motivated, resourceful and knowledgeable, and strategic and goal directed. And you might be able to answer these questions about what you've done for this lesson in the accessibility layer. That is the new planner. The only change, again, is at the end. Instead of looking at the barriers within students, we're looking about how to create a flexible learning environment that proactively addresses any kind of barriers that students might have. The rest of the planner, again, is the same. It's got all the same boxes and same requirements that you did last year. I also have a copy of this exemplar linked within the directions. So if you need to look at that, feel free. Thank you.